Good morning, everybody. How are you? Hopefully you enjoyed the keynote. I'd like to welcome everybody to sunny Seattle. Hopefully you're enjoying our weather. Actually, you missed the epic summer we had about 3 weeks ago, and for the next 9 months, it's going to be pretty much what you see today, except it'll probably get a little colder. My name is Keenan Newton. I'm a senior product manager on the SharePoint team, responsible for the Office and SharePoint developer audiences. My partner in crime here is Cyrielle. She is also on my team and responsible for the developer audiences as well. And what we're going to talk about today is some of the new things that we've done with Office and SharePoint for the developer community. So first, our key investment areas that we've made. We've introduced, which most of you are probably familiar with in some shape, form, or another, apps and what we call the cloud app model. And what this means is, from a SharePoint perspective, obviously SharePoint's always been in the web. But from an Office perspective, Office has always been a client-side tool. If you've ever tried writing any type of plugin for Office, you've either had to write something with COM, maybe you use the Visual Studio tools for Office where you had to understand .NET and C# as well. What we've done is we've actually brought the web into Office. So now you can actually go ahead and use HTML, JavaScript, and other languages of your choice to actually write plugins directly into Office. We've also introduced the Office and SharePoint store. We figured Windows Phone had a store, Windows had a store, well, we needed our own store too. And it's great because it allows individuals that use SharePoint or use Office to easily discover applications that are out there and install them onto the machine without necessarily having to involve IT. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, yeah, but shouldn't IT be involved? We just don't want our users swiping away and with their credit cards and downloading apps. Well, we have controls for IT to actually procure apps as well, so that way they can turn it off for you end users, or they can provide a workflow that will actually go through an approval process to approve purchases. We've made significant enhancements with the client-side object model. It's been around, but we've actually made it so it works on with Windows Phone. It'll work with Silverlight. It'll work with any .NET application that you have. We also have the JavaScript version of it with the JavaScript object model for SharePoint. Office actually introduces the JavaScript object model. That's where the HTML JavaScript actually plugs in. So you can use JavaScript to actually interact with your content within your Word document or in your Excel document or an email task pane, a PowerPoint presentation. We've also made significant improvements with our APIs with the server-side object model. So with the new enhancements that we made sure that there's APIs. So if you're building full trust solutions today, that's not going away. That stays. We realize that a lot of you have already been building full trust solutions in SharePoint, so it's been kind of the mainstay. It's not going anywhere. This new apps model is just something new to add on. We made significant changes with workflow. So before in workflow ran within the SharePoint process. Now workflow is actually going to be executing off server using the Workflow Manager. Formerly, you may have heard of it as known as Windows Azure Workflow. And what it does is it uses declarative XML statements to actually make HTTP requests to various services. So before you had an activity for SharePoint that would send an email, and that was like a binary, that was a .NET assembly that you're effectively calling. Now in the new workflow, it's actually an HTTP request. So that sends a REST request saying, hey, SharePoint, go send this email to this user. Here's the text, here's the body, go do it. Let me know when you're done. And that's how the new Workflow Manager works. What this allows you to do, first, workflows run independently of SharePoint. So you don't have to scale SharePoint in order to scale your workflow. You want to scale your workflow? Scale the Workflow Manager. With Office 365, Workflow Manager is just there. You don't have to worry about scaling it. So that's the good thing. On-prem, it's it's part of the SharePoint install, and you could install it on the same box, but it's always suggested to install it on a separate server. Lastly is Access, and Access I'm sure is known and loved by many of you, and you consider it like a real development language. No, now it is not for the developer, but for the power user. And the reason why we say that is a lot of times I know IT departments get fearful of access because people start putting all this critical data on it and they have no idea what's being done with it. We get that. We've heard those cries. So in 2010, we introduced access services, which started putting data in a SharePoint list and kind of gave this web front end. Well, we've taken it to another level for 2013. Now our actual backing store is SQL Server. And when you're writing your apps with Access, you're actually going to be writing them with you're creating actual HTML pages with JavaScript that'll actually make REST calls effectively directly into SQL Server through the Access Services middle layer. What this allows you to do is that users now don't have to think about how they're actually storing their data. They just, when they create new Access apps, they just figure out, hey, these are various types of nouns like author, book, and it kind of gives some suggestions of what those fields may actually look like. We provide those services for you. We also kind of don't allow the user to kind of redefine the user experience. Reason why is, and you guys probably can attest to it more than I can, most end users aren't the greatest at building user experiences for apps. They start throwing things all over the page, and all of a sudden you have a big form with like 100 text box controls and 100 labels, and you're supposed to try to find something. That really isn't an intuitive experience. So we've used some of the Windows 8 style type of guidelines and formerly known as Metro, to go ahead and create a user experience that when users are developing apps, they don't care about how they lay out the page. They just go ahead and select what actions I want to perform, the validation rules for each one of those fields, and they're done. That's it. So when you've used one Access application and you go to somewhere else to use another one, it's consistent. You understand how what the Access application, how it works, and you just have to know about the content and the domain logic behind it. So again, it's the developer tool for the power user, and every organization has got them. And this gives you the flexibility to go ahead and say, here's your sandbox. It's saved in SQL Server, so my IT department knows what's going on. So when it's time to grow up the application, I've got that data, and I can also control how that data is backed up with governance policies. So our agenda for today, that we're going to focus on the apps in the cloud app model. And then we're going to talk a little bit around the Office and SharePoint stores. And we're going ahead and I'm going to show you how you can basically get started building apps right here, right now, right where you're sitting. You could probably build your first app in about 15 minutes, give or take. No Visual Studio, everything done in the browser, but I'll get to that. So let's focus on apps in the cloud app model. So some of the key things that we know, just out of curiosity, how many people here are SharePoint developers? Okay. How many people here are Office, would consider themselves Office developers? Oh, almost about half and half mix. Okay. Awesome. So we understand there's a huge ecosystem between Office and SharePoint, and that's one of the main reasons why we're kind of coming up with this new model. We need something that can support both the cloud and on-prem. And obviously, nobody wants to put full trust code in the cloud. So this is one of the reasons why we started thinking about this new app model. We have over 700,000 developers out there. And what's even more remarkable, we have pretty much over 1 billion Office users out there across all versions of Office. That's a lot of users that are using this product. So building apps or building solutions for both Office and SharePoint can be a very lucrative proposition. And we also understand what today's trends. Not everybody wants to fully understand .NET, or they're not comfortable with it. Maybe they want to use PHP. Maybe they want to use Ruby on Rails. Okay, do it. If that's what you're comfortable with, go ahead and write it there. You want to use Windows Azure? Great. You want to use ISS? Great. You want to use Visual Studio? Great. Obviously, our products are going to be a first-in-class experience. We know that. But if you're more comfortable in other platforms, there's nothing stopping you from writing apps for Office and SharePoint using these other types of platforms. So we embrace HTML5. We embrace web standards, OData, REST, OAuth. We embrace all these standards with the new app model. We also know that most of your developers that are out there, about 75% of you, are writing HTML5 apps. You guys understand HTML5, you're doing something with it, so you have a basic understanding of it. So While it's great knowing Office and SharePoint, you can also leverage the resources that you have at your organization already. And the fact is, we really strongly feel by 2014, maybe even sooner, a good number, probably 75% or more of Fortune 1000 companies will have some type of APIs out there to leverage. Perfect example is an acquisition we just made a little while ago with Yammer. Yammer has their APIs, and you can go ahead and leverage Yammer within apps for Office or SharePoint that I'll actually be demoing at one of my later sessions. So these are really key fundamentals for that we thought about when coming up with this new app model. So our key principles that we have is obviously we're designing this for the cloud. And if we design it for the cloud, it means it will work on-prem as well. So what you write for Office 365 for the cloud will work on-premise as well. There are very few subtle little things that you have to tweak between the different environments, and that's around authentication. That's it. In the cloud, it's OAuth. In the on-premise, it's site-to-site certificates. But once that's configured by your IT department, you're set and running off to the races. We wanted to make sure that there's a consistent development platform. Ensuring that how you write things, like today with 2010, how you write something with VSTO versus how you write something for SharePoint are very different. Today we can bring that together. In fact, one of the new types of apps that we actually support are Office-enabled apps for SharePoint. And it kind of means exactly what it says. I have an app for SharePoint that has Office components that are enabled in it. So that way I can actually have a SharePoint site and Office interaction with that from my Word document or via my Excel spreadsheet. And lastly, I talked real briefly, whatever platform you choose, whatever language you choose, however you want to write, if you want to write in Notepad, bless you. Write it in Notepad. If you want to write in Visual Studio, that's great. But whatever tools and technologies you're comfortable with building your web applications, you can re-leverage those tools and technologies for building apps for Office and SharePoint. Okay, sweet. So in the end result of all this is that it's all about the new cloud app model. So we're introducing these new types of apps. As I mentioned before, your SharePoint solutions are all still there. We still support VSTO. That's not going away. This is just an extra tool that you have for being able to support both online and on-premise type solutions. Again, we are allowing you to leverage familiar tool sets. So I can't emphasize this enough. If you happen to work in an organization that kind of loves other platforms than Microsoft, I know it's rare, but they do exist. You can go ahead and leverage those talents that you have at those organizations. And lastly is around flexible lifecycle. So we actually put in things to support the IT departments for supporting apps. For instance, if you're an IT administrator and someone downloads an app, you can stop them from using the app. You can kill the app, go right into the central admin and say, hey, nope, you can't use this app anymore. You can also control, like as the developer of an app, when a person actually gets the app, and if you're the end user of the app, when you upgrade the app. So the developer, there's a whole marketplace and there's a whole store, the Office and SharePoint stores. But you can actually, as the developer, you have a full marketplace experience where you can go ahead and submit your apps, you can monetize your apps, you can provide free trials and whatnot. As an ISV, you're not confined to having to use the store. You can deploy apps through what we call the app catalog. And the app catalog basically allows you to siloed solutions. So think about this model for a second. I'm an ISV. I want users to try my solution. I don't want to use the Office and SharePoint store to sell it. So what do? I go ahead and I essentially provide a free trial in the Office or SharePoint store. The person likes it. They call me up. I then go ahead and give them. They buy licenses from me, and I go ahead and submit these Office apps and SharePoint to them, like via USB drive, and they easily siloed it into their organization by putting them into the app catalog. So we've also enabled it so ISVs can do the things how they installed solutions today. They can still do that going forward. And lastly, as an end user, if I'm using a specific version of an app and I'm not ready to install the new version, I don't have to. I'll be prompted if I want to install the new version, but I can still use the older version as long as developer didn't take that away from me. So again, similar to your Windows 8, similar to your Windows Phone 8 app experiences, we provide that to our end users as well. With that, I'm going to let Cyril go ahead and take over it and show you the power of what apps can do.
Awesome, thank you, Keenan. So just before going ahead and get started, how many of you have already seen or played with apps for Office? Sweet. How about apps for SharePoint? Nice. How many of you have already built some and submitted to the store? Good. We're going to work on that. OK, so I'm going to start demos right now. So let me just switch to my laptop. My goal in the next 15 minutes, the first part of the demo is really to show you what are apps and what they can do in both Office and SharePoint. So I'm just going to go ahead and start in Excel with a really simple example. So here, I'm just trying to analyze the cost of living index per state in a regular Excel spreadsheet. It's Excel 2013. So I have list of state in the US and more data in every column of my table here. And the cost of living index is in this column. So because I am in Excel, I can use really nice formatting features. For example, I can use conditional formatting, why not, and some data bars, so I can have an idea of just really quick what are the states with the highest cost of living index. But what I like to do as a user is being able to look at this information in a map. If I want to have an idea of the geographical representations of this data, right now in Excel, I'm not able to do it. So before, I was not able to do it. Now in Excel 2013, I can actually go ahead and on the Insert tab, I can insert apps, as I could insert any other object in Excel, pictures or charts. So I've already used this app. I'm going to insert this really quick. In the next part of the demo, I'll show you how users can discover apps and how IT can manage and deploy apps within an organization. But for now, I just want to show you the user experience. So in just one click, I can insert my Bing map here, right inside my spreadsheet. It's just a regular object in Excel, but because it's all web-based, I will have as a user exactly the same experience here in Excel client as I would use Bing Map in my browser. You can actually go ahead and check out the source here. And you can see it's all based on HTML and JavaScript, CSS. And this is how the app was built. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can customize my map. I can change, for example, here to bird's eye, or automatically switch the view based on where I am on my map. And that's it. That's a Bing map. So think about it as an iframe inside my spreadsheet. Now, wouldn't it be great if I can interact with the content of my documents? And so I can get back the content from my table directly inside Bing map. And yes, we can do it now. So all I need to do as a user, again, is just select information from my table here. And in one click, I can pin those results here in my app. So basically what I'm trying to introduce here is the new JavaScript API. Let me see. Did I click here? Yeah, all right. So we are leveraging the new JavaScript API that we have released in the new Office that works across multiple Office applications in Word, in Excel, in Project, PowerPoint, Outlook. And basically, thanks to this new API, developers can build web application that will run inside Office and can still interact with the content. So here, I'm able to read content from my table and pin locations inside my map. Because I've pinned this selection inside my app, now my spreadsheet is bound to my app. So if I want to go ahead and update, for example, I don't know, Utah here, I can just go ahead and update my table. That will update my app really quickly, and I will be able to see a different size of the circle here directly inside my app. Right? So that's a really simple example. This is what we call a content app. We have multiple form factors of app in Office, and this one is a content app. Because everything is web-based, we can actually have exactly the same experience directly inside the browser in Excel web app. on multiple browsers, multiple devices, I will be able to use my app the same way. So actually, I think that would be really great to be able as well to build custom maps. Maybe I don't need a worldwide map. Maybe I just want to have a US map. Maybe I want to be able to do something more custom. So as an organization, as a developer, you can build your own graph now in Excel. And we've actually released election tracker app last week. And so this one is running now in Excel client. And so I'm able to look at results of Senate, President, election tracker results here. Every time I scroll on a state, I can have more information. And you can see it's the same as the Bing map. It's just an app that is running inside my Excel client. Because I am in Excel, I can leverage the power of Excel and have more graph and more information. I can write back content from this app inside my spreadsheet here. If I update the results, I can write back information on other tabs of my spreadsheets. And actually, here I have exactly the same app running in my browser in Excel web app. And I have the same experience as a user. I can also scroll here on multiple states. I can switch from different views. And if you want to try out this app, you can just go on our blog, blogs.msdn.com, Office apps. And that's the third post, maybe fourth by end of the day. But check out this post. Don't miss the new election tracker app. We actually explain how it was built by our program managers, engineers internally. And that's a really nice example. So next one I want to show you is actually an example, actually a template that we've built this summer because we were following the Olympic Games really closely. And we thought that we already had multiple apps that together could bring a really nice experience to users to monitor and follow the results of the Olympic Games. And this is an app that we call the Medal Tracker. It was actually released as a template in Excel because apps can be saved as part of a document. Actually, technically, the app will still run remotely on a web server on Azure, but we are able to save as part of the OpenXML format information about the app. Where was the app? What apps the user was using in the document? And we can save the latest state of the app when we close the document as well. So when I reopen my document or when I load the template, I'm ready to do my work as a user. And this is a really nice example of a dashboard, a powerful mashup in Excel, powered by 3 different apps. So the 3 apps that we have are, to start with, the Bing Map, the one you've seen. That was one of the first apps we've built at Microsoft to showcase our technologies and the power of the platform. This one is the one that we use internally for fun. It's a Bubble app, and we use this to just look at, historically it was to look at bugs result and track bug resolution within the engineering team. And it was a really fun way and interactive way to look at some data in an interactive way, rich experience for users, all powered by HTML5. And this one here, on the left-hand side, is what we call a task pane app. That's the second form factor of apps in Office. And they run in Excel, in Word, in PowerPoint, and Project. Actually, the same task pane app can run across multiple Office applications because the JavaScript API is the same across the multiple Office applications. And this app basically was built in a few hours. It took us more time to get access to the data than building the apps themselves and the solution. And here, I can, in one click, refresh the data back inside my spreadsheet. The API enables me to write back content inside my spreadsheet. And so I can populate results from the Olympic Games here directly inside Excel. And I can really leverage the whole power of Excel with slicers and pivot table and have much more information based on the data that I'm connecting to through the app. And I can also catch selection changes. So every time the user will select a specific cell, we can also update, refresh the app, or show a different view of the app. So here, if I select France, I can see that in swimming and judo, we were not bad during the Olympic Games, but definitely United States were the best country and brought the best results. And I can show, I can look at the team, what were the top athletes. I can also check out news from Bing News, everything right in Excel. Always up to date, always current, with a really rich new experience in my spreadsheet. All right, so I'll show you an example in Word later on, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you apps in Outlook now, because that's our third form factor. Here. Actually, I'm not going to use Outlook. I'm going to use Outlook Web App in my browser, because those apps run as well, both in the client and the web. Everything is web-based. And apps in Outlook do not require any user insertion. We don't insert apps inside an email. We actually trigger automatically apps depending on the content of my email or appointment. The way mail apps, we call them mail apps or apps for Outlook work, is basically based on regular expressions that Exchange can find the content of my email and activation rules related to those regular expressions. So let's say I've found a contact name in my email. I'd like to switch on this app that can help me to have more information about this contact on an external social network. I found an address in my email. Well, I'd like to be able to look at this location directly inside a map from my email and not go and open another browser. Let's say I've found a specific pattern, CRM ID, product ID. You can also create your own patterns and regular expressions and associate an app to it. So users will always get more context about their email right from the inbox. That's the purpose of mail apps. So we can get things done faster and better without leaving the inbox and from anywhere. So let me show you just simple examples here. I'm just going to show you one mail. And in this one, I actually have the bar app that shows up. And it's not going to work in every email. Again, it depends on what is in my email. It's contextual experience. And when I click here on my bar app, I can actually now use a third-party app, Take Note, that comes from the store. I'll show you later what's the user experience here. And I've already, here in this example, I am Garth Fort, and I've already met Alex Darrow. I know he's a skilled web developer. I took a note about him earlier. And so next time I get an email from him, I get back information about this specific contact. So I'm always remember who is that person and what discussion we had before directly inside my email. Because we have an address in the content of the email, we are also able to trigger a Bing Map. And you can see here when I select Bing Map, the app is highlighting what is the address in the email and why the Bing Map was triggered inside my email. So I can look up at One Microsoft Way directly inside Bing Map. And again, zoom in, zoom out. It's the same as before. We also have, and this is an out-of-the-box app in the new Exchange and Outlook. And we are also able now with Exchange to provide some semantic understanding of the email. So basically, we are able to detect if there is an action in the email that we should follow up, or if there is a meeting that we need to set up based on the content on my email. So here, basically, the app suggested meetings is being activated right from my email because basically Alex asked me to meet today from 2 to 3. So I can just in one click create this meeting in my calendar. Another example here, I've received an automatic email from a workflow, and I'm being asked to learn more about Site Mailbox. It's a great new feature in SharePoint. So Action Items app is being triggered, and I can create a task and have a follow-up really quick, keep track of this action in my inbox. All right? OK. Next part of the demo is SharePoint. So here is a SharePoint team site. We haven't done customization on this site. So basically, you can see here the user experience. Every time I'm going to create a new team site, I can, in a few really quick steps, share my site, customize my site, thanks to the live tiles on the top of the site. We've decided in this release to simplify a lot the user experience. We really put people in the center of the SharePoint experience. And as part of this reflection, those thoughts, we decided that it was important to simplify our SharePoint site structures. And in the past, users could customize sites, but they will have to find a calendar in the list items, for example. So we had too many objects, and it was too complicated for users. So in this release, all SharePoint objects are called apps. And so lots of apps comes out of the box, like task, document library, polls, surveys, or calendars. But you can also find apps, third-party apps from the store, the SharePoint store, or you can create your own apps internally within your organization. So now as a user, if I want to customize my site, the only thing I need to do is to access site contents. And here, I can get access to all out-of-the-box apps, third-party or internal apps with a consistent experience. And I've already installed a few ones that I'm going to show you. Here again, in SharePoint, apps have multiple form factors, so they can provide to the user a full immersive experience, like the Adly PDF Publisher here. It's a third-party app that comes from the store. And when I launch the app, let me see. Here is my app. So that's what we call the full immersive experience, right? It's taking the full page here, and I can just quickly convert Office files to PDF format, certainly using Word automation services or PowerPoint automation services in the backend. That's one of the form factors we've got with SharePoint apps. But because I've installed this app on my site, what I can do now actually is also right from my document library here. Let me go here, for example. I can now send a document right from the SharePoint menu to the app. When I click Add to Publication, this document is taken and sent to my app. So apps enable me as well to extend the ribbon in SharePoint and menus from documents. And that wouldn't be here without the app being installed. It's going to go in the app, in the queue, and convert into a PDF file format now. The second one I want to show you is the customer billing and time tracking app. And this one was actually built using Access. So back to what Keenan was introducing before, Access is evolving as a power user tool to build apps for SharePoint. So everything was set up using Access, relations between tables. We are relying on Windows Azure and SQL Azure, so the data is backed up. And the app is being shared and pushed within the organization using the same deployment model as apps. And I'll show you in a little while how it's working. OK, so let me go back to my presentation real quick. It's one. And I'm going to go ahead and move to the next part. That is all about how users can discover apps, the Office and SharePoint store experience, as well as IT management of apps. So just before some demos, I'd like to really stress the flexible lifecycle pillar, one of the pillars of this new cloud app model, because for the first time, we now actually have two paths to push apps and get apps into the hands of users. First, publicly through the Office and SharePoint store, and you'll see how users can discover apps that come from the store, but as well through a private store that we call an app catalog that will help organizations to distribute apps internally, both for Office and SharePoint, and keep control on their apps. Because of the architecture of the new cloud app model, for the first time, apps can run without impacting Office and SharePoint performance or security. We are just rendering apps inside Office or inside SharePoint. In SharePoint, think about this as the Facebook app model. Apps are running somewhere else. They are hosted on Azure or on your web server. And they are just authenticating in SharePoint thanks to the OAuth support, and they are being rendered through SharePoint. So that means IT pros will be able for the first time to focus on managing SharePoint, managing Office, deploying, migrating, and developers can work on their apps, update their apps, push updates without fear of breaking anything. And this is really good for everyone. I mean, for developers, IT professionals, and users, of course. So I'm just going to get back on my demo here. And let's say for a minute that I am now the IT admin. So great, we've got stores, we've got apps, we've got an app catalog internally. So if you go to the SharePoint Administration Center, we now have a new tab for apps, and all features to manage apps are available from here. So as an administrator, I can set up really quick an app catalog, and I'll show you later how it looks. I can also access the store and purchase apps with multiple licenses or for all my organization. I can then manage licenses and attribute apps to specific users within my organization if I have a limited amount of licenses. I can configure the store settings. And so basically here, I'm able to say, I don't want people from my organization to access the store, or I'm okay for them to access the store, but they are not allowed to buy anything. They can submit requests for purchase, and as the IT department, we will go ahead and check out if the app is secure, if it's something critical for the business, and then we will make the decision if we want to distribute this app within the organization. And we can then monitor apps and see what's the real usage of apps, if we need more licenses, less licenses when they come from the store, for example. So this is what I've done here. In configure store settings, I've actually disabled direct purchase from users. So now let me go back on my other session as Gerd Forth here. Right, so now I'd like to I've seen apps that are installed on my SharePoint site. When I click on Add an App, I'm able to see the full list of apps that are available to me, even the ones that I haven't yet installed on my site, the ones that are pushed through my app catalog, my organization, or the ones that have been bought by my IT department from the store and available to everyone within the organization. If I want to check up apps that are pushed from my IT department, I can here check from Contoso. If I click on from Contoso, I will see apps that are distributed through the app catalog only. But in one click here, I can access the SharePoint store, and I can now start to browse it and look for some apps that could be important for my business, some apps that could help me to get things done quicker, faster, and better. And for example, I'm having a hard time to deal with workflow in SharePoint. So I'm really interested in this app here because my administrator removed direct purchase from the store. All I can do is request this app. So I can add a note, help me with workflows. I only need the app for now. I can request the app, and I will kick off the purchase workflow. And as an administrator, I will be notified, and I can go ahead, check the app, and buy it. So let me go back to my other session here in private. So here I am logged in as the IT administrator. So if I go on my app catalog now, actually it's here already, I can check out app requests. And indeed, I have a new one here, requested by Gerd Forth. I can open the request, check out the justification here, and in one click, I can access the store, review the app. I have some screenshots, reviews, comments, and now I can add it as the administrator of the organization. And once it's done, as a user, let me just approve it. Closed as approved by the admin. Good. It's not in the open request anymore. So if I go on the list of apps that I can add, now I should be able to find the workflow app. It's going to certainly take a few minutes. So that's how we manage purchase requests internally from an organization for apps for SharePoint. Now in Office, we actually have the same capabilities. In Office, administrators can add trusted catalogs using GPO. So they can basically configure access to the store, remove access to the store, and add multiple app catalog. So you can use a SharePoint site as an app catalog, or you can also use just a folder and a file share. So if I go now in my Office, and I'm going to show you this in Word, I can really simply discover more apps from the Insert tab. When I click on Apps for Office here, I can see the list of all apps I've bought from the store and reuse those apps right away from my document. I've already bought them. Or I can also discover featured apps. What are apps recommended to me by the community? If you don't mind, we're going to take the questions right after the session. Thank you. So here I can check out featured apps, the ones that are recommended to me by the community, most successful apps on the store. And as the IT department, I can set up Office so we have an app catalog and we can distribute internal apps. So I'm going to go ahead and do it right away now in Office from the Trust Center, but everything can be done through GPOs. I can add my network share. It's on my local machine here, but that could be any network share or SharePoint's app catalog. So I'm going to have to reboot. Sorry, not that one. Word. Here. Now if I check from the Insert window, now I have my shared folder. OK. For now, no apps are available to me. Actually, if I check out here, you can see it's empty. So how can I distribute, how can I deploy apps? I have here an app, a Wikipedia app for Office. What the app itself is running on a web server remotely. The important component of apps is this manifest file, this single XML file here. If I actually open it, you can see I've got information about this app. I can see the version, who's the provider, localization information, what's the definition of the app, where is the icon, capabilities. So this app will be able to run both in Word and Excel, Workbook and Document, the same app developed just once, running across Office applications. And this is where the app is running. So if I copy-paste this here, let's try out if it's working. There you go. That's my Wikipedia app running in my browser. Let's bring this inside Office now. All I need to do is copy-paste this file into my shared folder or into my app catalog. If I was using the app catalog, I would do the same and publishing the manifest file directly here. And for SharePoint, directly here. It's just a list of package, apps package, or manifest files. That's all I need to do as an administrator. Now my manifest file is on my file folder. If I refresh, here I go. I've got Wikipedia in Word. I can insert my app, and I can start to use it right inside Word. I can learn more about Microsoft Surface, just as an example, and insert back images directly inside my document using exactly the same JavaScript API. The same app will work in both Excel and Word in this example. OK, so just a summary slide before going ahead with how to build apps. And Kenan is going to show you how it works. I just have a summary slide here to show you how, as a developer, you can reach out to users. First path is through the store, dev.office.com. It's our new dev center. You can go ahead, check out the dev center, learn how to build apps for both Office and SharePoint, get access to the seller dashboard, and submit apps. As Microsoft, we will do an app validation for sure. And once it's available from the store, you've seen how users can discover the apps from the Office ribbon and from the SharePoint sites. We've sold a copy of Office every second in Office 2010. We now have 1 billion of users worldwide using multiple Office versions. But think about the trend and think about the opportunity, the developer opportunity with Office and the SharePoint ecosystem. The second path is direct sales. Maybe you're a corporate developer or an ISV, and you already have contact with customers, and they have specific needs that wouldn't make sense to publish this app on the store. Well, just go ahead, build the app, but leverage the app catalogs so you can push apps through an organization without with removing the deployment blockers we've had in the past with full trust code in SharePoint, add-ins in Office, macros spreading all over the place, and IT administrators cannot manage them anymore. In any case, once apps are published either from the store or from the app catalog, users will have a consistent manner to discover apps from the ribbon or from the store. So that will ease it will ease the discovery and use of apps and adoption of apps for end users. With that, I'm going to give the presentation back to Keenan.
All right. Thank you very much, Cyril. That was that's pretty awesome, isn't it? Pretty awesome. I mean, how many people? Yeah, exactly. Come on. Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, how many people ever tried building a VSTO plugin for Outlook back in the past? Yeah, you, sir, know my pain. Before I took this role as being a senior product manager, I was actually in Microsoft Consulting Services. I actually sat where you sit. I was a developer. I actually wrote code. I didn't do this forever. And I actually been through that experience of having to deal with certificates and trying to get that out there. Great functionality, just really hard. Now we use HTML, JavaScript. That's pretty cool. So let me just go ahead and wake up my machine here and quickly log in. We'll flip over the, we'll go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you how you can start building apps right now from your desktops, from your laptops, that you're pretty much sitting right in front of you. So we're going to start getting started writing apps right now. First, I want to talk quickly about our tool sets. So we basically have these tool sets basically from one end of the side of the spectrum to the other, where we have power users on one end and pro developers on the other. For power users, we enable them to actually build apps for SharePoint. What Cyril showed with one of the apps that's already available in the marketplace, that was written with Access 2013 with Access Services. This works both on-prem and in the cloud. I mean, you can do it with either type of environment. And if you're a power user and you think of something really cool, that's great. Let's say if you're a DJ, for instance, and you create this like music library thing that you think other DJs can use, you can go ahead and put your Access app on the marketplace and sell it. So you don't have to be a pro dev to write your solutions. We all introduced something called Napa, the Office 365 Developer Tools. What it is, it's a lightweight in-browser development experience. And it basically allows you, from the time you set up your developer site collection, to writing your app takes about 4 minutes, if not less. And when I say 4 minutes, I mean 4 minutes to where you're hitting F5 and something happens within SharePoint. And I'm going to demo that next. And obviously, our first-class experience with our great tooling with Visual Studio 2012, we have full support there. So the great thing is, I'll quickly show you in a little bit, is I'll be able to take what I build in Napa, hit a button, and it opens up in Visual Studio 2012. So that way, when I'm ready to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm ready to use the tools, I'm ready to do something more advanced, or if maybe I'm just a small startup and I start writing my app in Napa, and then as my organization gets bigger, as I get more venture capital funding, I'm able to afford bigger and better tools. Then I go ahead and download and install Visual Studio 2012. I purchase it and start writing my apps there. It's a zero friction roadmap to writing apps. Zero friction, and that's one of the key things there, because as long as you got a web browser, and it doesn't matter if it's on an iPad, it doesn't matter if it's on a Mac or whatever operating system you choose, whatever browser you use, you can write apps for Office and SharePoint very quickly. So let's go ahead and flip over to my desktop. Let's make sure. Okay. So what I'm showing right here is the SharePoint Dev Site Collection experience. Now, as a developer, let's say you don't use SharePoint and you just want to write an app for Office and an app for SharePoint, you'll be able to go to office.com and purchase a developer tenancy. And that's just made for, that tenancy is basically just a single site collection allowing you to go ahead and write apps. If you're an enterprise customer, you would just simply go ahead and set up the developer site collection, and it'll be waiting there for you. So here are my site developer collection. I want to go ahead and start building an app, so let's just go ahead and do that. I'm not going to sit here and do a lot of coding. I'll forewarn you, these are kind of hello world, a worldish type of apps, but hopefully it shows you the zero friction of getting to an app. So I already started writing one, but I want to show you the new project experience. So I can write apps for Office. I can write a task pane app for Office, so I can write the task pane that Cyril showed. I can write the content app, like the Bing map. I can go ahead and write that. And the mail app she created, I can write those too. There's nothing stopping me from writing these apps. So let's just go ahead and we'll leave the project name as SharePoint App 1. We'll hit Create. And now you can see I basically have an in-browser IDE that's sitting here for me. So here I got my web page that's available to me. I can use a client web part as well. And what this is for those people that are very familiar with SharePoint, we've had web parts in the past. But with the app model, we have something called an app part, which acts a lot like a web part where it's a single portion of a particular screen, and that's what the client web part file here just supports. It supports building that app part. And I have scripts. So I have my JavaScript here, which has some basic functionality to come in. So it says once my document's loaded. Again, it's using jQuery, so we're using all web standards here. It says go ahead and fire off SharePoint ready, which then grabs my SharePoint context, which is right here, and it fires off a method called getUsername. GetUsername simply just takes that user context, pulls it out, and executes the query using the SharePoint client-side object model. And when it's successful, it simply says, hey, user, get the title of the user, and render it. Pretty simple, hello world-ish. Let's hit F5. Let's run the project. So now it's packaging up the app for me automatically as it's uploading. It's deploying and installing the application automatically for me. And it should, in a few seconds, go ahead and launch the browser. And voila, hello, Keenan Newton. And that's it. Zero friction. You're writing apps right away. So that's the SharePoint experience. But we also have other experiences as well. I'll quickly show you what that looks like with Office. So I can go back to Napa. And we'll add a new project, and we'll add a new mail app for Office. Hit Create. And here again, I have my HTML here automatically for me, which also has like references to jQuery. This little bit of code here is the magic that makes the integration between your document or whatever your content is on the page and the actual code that you write in your JavaScript file. You'll also notice, if you haven't noticed this in the top right corner, if you're ever stuck, you got the little help feature right here within the IDE to help you get you unstuck. And this one is very simple. I'm just going to pull the subject, the from, and the to, and present that in line. And again, I'll just put in my credentials for my Exchange account. It'll go ahead and package the app. And what's happened is there is actually one more app catalog that exists. We showed the app catalog that's in SharePoint. We showed the file one. There's actually one that sits in Exchange as well for putting these mail apps, and that's where this is being deployed to. Because as Cyril had mentioned, when you pull down an app, we actually take a look and say, hey, is there a phone number? Is there an address? Or is there some type of custom regular expression that maybe you used to show this? So here it is. I have my Yammer activity itself, this email message, and there's my mail app. I can look at my mail app, and it's thinking. It should be creating the page. Uh-oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. It's okay, I have another app right next to it that I had been working on that I can just show. Well, let's just show this one. So the great thing about this service, so if there are bugs and there are problems, typically we've had to get service packs and things to work. But if you take a look at where I was in the past, this is actually a different URL at the top here, this napacloudapp.net. So what does that mean? That means when there's things to be fixed or new features to add, they just add it. And they can just add it at will, and you don't have to worry about installing service packs or doing other things of that nature. So let's quickly just go back into that app, and I'll just quickly show that off. So here I have my Yammer app, and I will go ahead and open up Yammer next to it. There we go. And you can see I have these different threads I have going here. And what I simply did here with this particular app is I created the ability to go ahead and post email messages. So Yammer is great for socializing. It's kind of like you can think of it like Facebook for the enterprise. But what's really great is I can potentially socialize these various types of apps for my organization. And here I can just go ahead and post this email. So I've said, that's great. And using nothing but JavaScript and HTML, I'm very easy to go ahead and post that. And you can see it automatically reflected automatically in Yammer on this side. I was also able to write features. So I was able to plug in Yammer. So if I take a Yammer message that I have existing, let's say I'm paying attention to a thread where I'm following a specific thread. Over here, I have this specific thread here, and it allows me to reply to it. I'm like, oh, well, that's great. Let's open up the Yammer Outlook. And using those regular expressions that Cyril talked about, I'm not only able to go ahead and determine if the app opens up, but I also can use that within my code, use that functionality within my code to show the different UIs there, because I can test those for those user expressions. And I can go ahead and like the message. So when it's liked, I can go ahead and find it. I just need to refresh the page because that is not real time. And if I go down and scroll to where my message is, and I believe it was it's just created a new app. It's this one, and I can see that it's been liked by me. So this is all great, powerful stuff that I can do. And people ask me all the time, why on earth would I build an app? I got browsers, I got copy paste, and there's the key word, copy paste. Whenever you would change the context from one thing to another thing to get something done, there's an opportunity to build an app. You copy something into an Excel, you're copying and pasting, an opportunity to build an app. To provide that seamless user experience that users have come to enjoy on their mobile platforms and now on Windows 8, you can bring that into Office, into SharePoint. So now it just shows you how you can quickly start writing your first app. We have a lot of related sessions that are available to here. And with that, I'm going to leave this up here, and we're free to take questions. With that, if you're going to leave, both Cyril and I would like to thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of Build. Thank you. I believe I saw someone else was raising a question over here. No, he might have left. Yes, sir. So much like like Windows and Windows Phone 8, we do have governance checks that we have. Some are automations, some are done with humans that actually check to make sure that anything isn't going bad. If we see a lot of complaints, we take the feedback in, thorough evaluation, determine what the complaint is, and obviously we'll get that resolved. So yeah, there is a governance. We just don't let anything go up into the store. Any other questions? Yes, sir. How do you handle offline clients? Great question. HTML5 solves that problem for us. So with HTML5 supporting the offline caching capabilities that you can do with current browsers like IE10 and other current browsers, it actually provides that for you just automatically out of the box. You just basically code your HTML app to accommodate that offline capabilities for the browser, and it'll just work. Yes, sir. Can you write apps in C#? Yes. So basically, I showed you HTML, JavaScript, but that's an HTML page that's being rendered. But in actuality, I can write a ASPX page and just do the whole thing in C# within ASPX. The only thing that is HTML, JavaScript is the presentation layer. What you want to do on the domain side, and if you come to both the part 1 and part 2, we're going to dive deeper into those models and get into more the lower depths. Yes.
Is there a session explaining how to configure the firewall so we can allow apps to be?
Is there a session to how you can configure the firewall? It shouldn't have to be any configuration because it's all HTTP. As long as you can surf the internet, you should be able to publish apps and do things of that nature. There shouldn't be any roadblocks there. So in order to access the site collection, again, it's using, so if you're in the cloud, let's say with Office 365, you're probably using Windows Azure. If you're on-premise, you're probably using an on-premise install of SharePoint with like IIS or Azure websites. If you're a third party with a tenancy, then yeah, you would have to figure out what, like, set up a reverse proxy in order to support that. But what we've actually done is we support OAuth. So when it comes to authentication, and part of that OAuth authentication process, there are tools and services that are out there that allow you to say, hey, if I authorize this app between my internal network and external and I have a proxy, you can make part of that OAuth process, part of it to say, okay, open up that port as well. So once the OAuth says, yes, this app is approved, basically it's an event. I know like some F5 and Juniper type products support that as well. But we don't, because we had a limited number of sessions, we don't have one on specifically that. But actually, that's an excellent thing that we'll probably blog about in the near future. Yep, absolutely. And yes, sir, way in the back.
Does this work?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, as far as the SharePoint client-side object model is concerned, what are the limitations with dealing with SharePoint hosted in Office 365?
So what are the limitations with using the client-side object model with SharePoint versus Office 365?
Yeah, so SharePoint hosted in Office 365.
You said SharePoint hosted site?
Yeah, versus on-prem. So
On-prem.
let's say,
Yeah. None.
None?
There's, at least not to my knowledge. Everything I can do in the client-side object model, it's actually more limitation on the on-premise side. There are some tenancy kind of things I could do with the tenancy itself that apply only to Office 365. But it isn't like if I can do search here, I can do search here. If I can do BI in the cloud, I can do BI on-prem. If I can do ECM in the cloud, I can do it on-prem. The whole idea between the REST APIs and the client-side object model, if you do it in one environment, you can do the next. So you write your app once, and it works both in the cloud and on-prem. And we've intentionally designed it that way. Any other questions? Sir, here are the glasses.
So I see a lot of investment in Word, Excel, Outlook, which is pretty typical. What I haven't seen is, what about InfoPath and OneNote? Are there any additional APIs, or is there any tooling that's being new tooling for those environments?
I don't know for sure about OneNote itself. So when it comes to the app model, which was kind of more the focus of this session, InfoPath doesn't fit into that app model. InfoPath 2013 is very much still around, and it's still here, and it's still our choice of for building forms types based solutions, more or less for the power user. I mean, if you're a developer, we kind of suggest think about using this app model because it's using more web standards. I mean, if you know anything about InfoPath, it doesn't embrace like HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS the same way that you can with the app model. And if you're an end user, you might want to think about, because a lot of people are using like InfoPath with workflow and a list to build an end-to-end solution, maybe take a look at Access first and see if that actually meets your needs first. So, I mean, InfoPath has very much a role. I mean, it still does offline great, still does digital signatures great, and it's still a quick and easy way to edit a list. I mean, to provide a customized form. But, we have some extra tools in the tool bag now, so definitely think about that. Yes? You said any plans for apps for Office 2010?
Yeah, supporting apps in 2010 and
Nope. 2013. Yes.
So, by virtue of developing your app in the cloud like this,
Yep.
end users, whoever happens to do it, when the next service updates come in the cloud,
Yep.
is there going to be any issue with upgrading them or things are going to break?
As long as we don't change our interface, and this is true for anybody in the REST API, I'll be frank. We're telling everybody no. And yes, we fully mean no, but that just means all of our engineers and everybody doesn't break any of the existing REST APIs that are there. In other words, as long as the contract is still there and how you edit a list, and that still exists, it'll still work. Because with this new model, if you haven't noticed, with VSTO and SharePoint, it's always been tightly coupled. If we changed how the behavior of something, all of a sudden that could totally affect my SharePoint solution or my VSTO add-in. Here, it's just a web service. So as long as the contract of the O data result that comes back or what comes back in the CSOM is the same, it'll work. That's all we have to ensure. So when we go to 20XX of SharePoint in Office or whatever the next version is called, it should just work. And I'm 99.99999% positive that will happen because we just have to make sure that those interfaces are the same. And we've done that successfully between 2010 and 2013. Nothing broke in the CSOM. So I'm pretty confident that there shouldn't be any issues. If there are, it'd probably just be a quick bug fix. Yes, sir.
I don't know anything about the SharePoint 2013 licensing.
Yep.
But regarding on-premise SharePoint, what was shown today that's not available in the free version of SharePoint, like Foundation 2013?
That is correct. That is correct. But if you're looking just to try something, set up an Office 365 tenant. If you're looking to experiment, if you're looking to, like, to package it up like and use it like just the foundation stuff, the apps will work in SharePoint 2013. Some of the deeper level features will not, like the deeper things like with workflow 2013 and that sort of thing. One thing I forgot to caveat: the Napa solution, the web browser, is only Office 365 because it's a service, and eventually we might bring it down to on-prem, but right now it's only 365. Yes, sir.
The Outlook 2013 Windows client.
Yep.
How does that interact with the apps you're writing in your example?
The exact same way. So the key difference is when I'm in an Outlook web app or an Excel web app or Excel Word app, it's firing up an iframe. What the clients are doing, they're firing up a browser control. They have the exact same interaction. So again, that magical office.js file, what we effectively do is when that page is coming down, we look for that office.js file and say, there it is. We go ahead and replace it with one with all the necessary hooks underneath the hood in order to interact with the document itself. So that's how we provide the functionality. So, and it works both that way in the browser and works the exact same way in the client. So it should be seamless. Some things I'll tell you as a piece of advice: don't do pop-ups. Like, don't try popping up windows from your app. You'll have issues with trying to do that between the various platforms. So that's just something to stay away from. Stay within your window. But that's I think pretty common. I don't think you want pop-ups to be popping up, because then you can start popping up like, ooh, you got a virus on your machine. You need to install such and such. And you don't want that kind of thing happening. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I know you expanded the client option, but what is everything that you can do in server side, server is available in client option?
So we're almost on parity between our client object model and our REST APIs in the server side. We're not there. We prioritized the SharePoint front end type of stuff. Like we have over, I'll put it like this: we have over 30,000 classes that support the client side object model and REST APIs, and over 100,000 methods. So we're almost on parity to what the full trust solutions do. We're not quite there yet. We will in the future. Like, we did not prioritize like things in central admin for SharePoint, things of that nature. But we'll get there. What? We don't have a document that compares the deltas yet, because that'd be a very, very long document to actually do that. But it's something that yeah, we do have we have a major features on, it's just on MSDN. Yep. Any other questions? Yes, sir, way in the back.
Apologies if this is a repeat because I came in late. Is this supported on Office for Windows RT?
Does this support on Windows Office RT? And I'll let Cyril answer that.
Yes, for Office, we will have the same experience with apps running on RT.
Okay.
Actually, you've seen the deployment model.
Yeah.
All you need to do is push this manifest file, and it's associated to users. So basically, I can use multiple devices. I can use my full desktop or laptop and my Surface RT, and every time I sign into Office, I will get back my apps and have the same experience.
Okay, cool. So long term, do you see that obviously macros and whatnot are disabled or haven't been implemented on the RT version? Is this basically the future, or are we likely to see macros and whatnot come in for RT?
So your question is, are we going to have macro support on RT?
Well, is this kind of extensibility basically the future rather than bringing back macros? Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Do the SharePoint Online today support this kind of apps? I'm going to tell you something. It does. Anybody build a sandbox solution? Typical people building sandbox solutions are doing JavaScript. Guess what we're calling JavaScript into? SharePoint and some other cloud service. They're using JSON-P, other web standards. So does this architecture work in 2010? Yes. Is it as smooth as 2013? Oh, no. You still have to think of a lot of different things. A big key thing is authentication. Like, how does your app authenticate or solution authenticate with SharePoint? If you're going to try this in 2010, you're going to have to do some kind of headless, create like a user account to do all this. But with 2013, we support OAuth. So, for this identified user, this app is authorized. So the app is actually authorized itself, which is probably the better way. So technically, yes, you could do it. 2013 is a better way. And the tooling, all this, isn't going to directly support all this. So you're not going to get like the store. You're not going to get the Visual Studio tooling that just does things for you out of the box. Those types of things aren't there. Yes, sir, in the back.
Coming back to Office RT and the lack of VBA, on the Microsoft website it states that the reason that it's missing is, because, quote, because tablets have special needs for security and mobility, unquote. What are those that apply to ARM but don't apply to Atom?
Let me just rephrase this. Why can't we support macros? What are the reasons why we don't have VBA support on RT?
Yeah.
So basically it comes back to some of limitation of Windows RT. And we found out that we might have had some macros working, but not all of them. And it was kind of really hard to document and provide the best user experience when, in some case it's going to work, in other case it's not going to work. So basically we made this decision not to have support because that was the best to simplify the experience. Now you are aware of the professional surface. So the position we have is for enterprises, organizations that really need to run macros on a Slate device, on a Surface device. Then you still have Windows 8 Professional running on it.
But I'm confused because you managed to do a full port to OS X version of Office.
Pardon me?
You did a full port of VBA to OS X Office for Macintosh. So what is the limitation on ARM versus Atom?
It comes back to Windows RT, like some access that we can't do. But we
are some features in RT that don't exist in the full-blown Windows that VBA would actually need. If you want, we can take this offline.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
SharePoint 2013 app support communication to devices such as scanner.
SharePoint 2013 supports communication to like devices like scanners. Not out of the box. So if you scan something, it would have to go to a website, and then you would have to pull it from a website. It isn't going to like try to read your file system to pull the document off of your scanner, or is it going to try to go through like it's not going to try to directly interact with the scanner itself. We enforce a sandbox to prevent read and writing to the server. But what you can do is, there is nothing wrong with saying that you can have like a Windows 8 app that basically fires up when the scanner plugs in, uploads it automatically like to your SkyDrive, and then pull it down from your SkyDrive. So from the end user experience, it's not really a whole lot different. When they scan something automagical happens, gets put up into SkyDrive, and then you pull it down that way. So that's something, definitely some feedback I'll definitely take back. Yes, sir. So it's for general user authentication, it's claim space authentication for SharePoint. For the app authentication, and we're talking about the app authenticating to your SharePoint instance. It's OAuth specifically, and Azure. I think it's called Windows Azure Active Directory, is part of that component with ACS, Access Control Services, that supports OAuth. So when you go and sign into your Microsoft account, and you type in your ID and all that, like I think if you look at the URL, it says live.com or whatever on there. When you sign in there, the app knows who you are and the server knows who you are, and the app says it's this person accessing this app, and the SharePoint server goes okay. So it is using Active Directory under the hood to make that happen. But it's really OAuth is the open web standard that is kind of the enabler, as opposed to us writing a proprietary thing to do it. We just decided to use a web standard. That way, if you want to write something with PHP, go ahead. Any other questions? No? With that? Sorry. Yep.
JavaScript application is pretty
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, can I use the JavaScript application freely within internal within my organization, like on the intranet? Yeah, absolutely. Wherever you want to host the web page, and you'll see in part 1, my counterpart is going to show you how what is actually in that manifest file. Serial showed you a little bit of it, but it's just a URL. Wherever you point the URL, it could be localhost if you want it to be, and as long as that web page is there, it just works. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy lunch, and hopefully I'll see you in part 1 and part 2 later on.